the station that's on your side. This is News 12, first at 5.
911 calls released from the pilot of an F-35 jet that went missing over South Carolina.
A military jet crash. I'm the pilot. We need to get rescue rolling.
We'll hear much more of that coming up.
And one of the few medical marijuana dispensaries in Georgia opening right here in our area. We'll show you more coming up next.
But first, we're going into the weekend with cool, breezy weather, just in time for the official start of fall tomorrow.
In Riley, between Friday night football here and Ironman this weekend, it's a great time to be outdoors for us.
Absolutely, guys. Could not ask for better weather heading into the first official weekend of fall, as we just mentioned. And it looks like temperatures could actually get a little bit cooler this weekend. Each morning, we're expecting to wake up into the 50s, and we're enjoying lots of sunshine out there this afternoon. The only thing that's not necessarily concerning, but that is elevated, is the wind speed across the region. We are looking at a sustained wind, generally between 10 to 15 miles an hour for most of the area. So a little bit breezy out there. Seeing a little bit of some whitecap action there on Clarks Hill Lake, but other than that, just really nice weather across most of the region. But we are looking at now Tropical Storm Ophelia just off the Carolina coastline. This is bringing a lot of heavy rain to coastal North Carolina. No rain for us here locally. We are going to stay nice and rain-free this evening, tonight, and through the weekend. And it looks like our winds will gradually start to go down as well once we get past tonight. You can see sustained winds over 20 miles an hour near that Carolina coast, and they are seeing some wind gusts over 40 miles an hour. We've been able to see some wind gusts over 20 at times, but not expecting wind to be a huge factor for us once we get later to this evening. Beautiful football conditions, kickoff temps mid-70s, and then falling into the 60s during game time, so may want to grab a light jacket if you're heading out. We'll have a look at the rest of the weekend for you in just a bit. Let's get a quick update on your First Alert traffic.
And now, First Alert traffic.
All right, folks, we were looking at a little bit of a backup on I-20 near the state line just outside of our building. Here's a live look at it. You can actually see that traffic still moving a little bit slow. It's a little bit congested, but I do believe that traffic is improving now. I think they did get that cleared up. It was just on the South Carolina side between exit 1 and 5, but it looks like traffic definitely moving a little bit quicker than what we were just looking at about 30 minutes ago or so. Update on that weekend forecast for you coming up in just a little bit.
Thanks, Riley. Columbia County, soon to be one of the few places in Georgia you can access medical marijuana. True Leaf Dispensary on Washington Road in Evans is set to open tomorrow for people with medical marijuana cards to get their hands on low THC oils.
Our Sydney Hood shows us what the store is like ahead of tomorrow's grand opening.
Getting access to medical marijuana is getting easier. True Leaf brings to Evans nasal spray, pills, and topicals. You don't have to make an appointment, but you do need a state medical card, and you do have to pay out of pocket. The products are all third-party tested through a state-approved lab, and there are consultations to teach about cannabis.
5 stores just this year alone in the state. You're seeing more and more people ask questions. The patient registry actually has grown from about 20, I think it was 23,000 when the first store opened. Now we're up over 30,000.
For medical marijuana patients, this right here, True Leaf, is a game changer. Coming up on tonight on News 12 at 6 o'clock, the relief patients have and what's next once things get rolling around here.
All right, thanks, Sydney. And remember, this will not be available for everybody. This is medical marijuana. And to get a THC oil card, you must be 18 or older and have a qualifying medical condition certified by a doctor. Possession of THC oil in certain quantities will be illegal. With a medical card, marijuana is still illegal to grow and sell in Georgia. More information about legal medical marijuana and THC oil is on our website, wrdw.com.
Newly released 911 calls are giving us more information into what happened after an F-35 fighter jet disappeared near Charleston. This happening Sunday after the pilot was ejected for an unknown reason. That pilot calling 911 after he landed. Listen to this.
We have a military jet crash. I'm the pilot. We need to get rescue rolling. I'm not sure where the airplane is. It would have crash landed somewhere. I ejected.
How far did he fall?
I was at 2,000 feet.
What caused the fall?
An aircraft failure.
He then tells the dispatcher his back hurts. The dispatcher understandably confused as they were trying to make sense of all of this. People in the area reported hearing a loud noise leading up to the crash. It took crews more than 24 hours to actually locate the wreckage in an area near Indiantown, South Carolina. The cause of the crash still under investigation this evening.
After more than 20 years behind bars for a murder he didn't commit, Joey Watkins is a free man. On January 11, 2000, Isaac Dawkins was shot in the head while driving near Rome, Georgia. Investigators targeted Watkins from the beginning, and despite a confirmed alibi and cell phone records, he was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. Watkins maintained his innocence, and in 2018, he and his team have fought to get a new trial. That was granted earlier last year, and a new trial was scheduled. Now, last night, he learned all of his charges have been dropped.
3 young men are being honored tonight for their quick thinking after a suspect tried to break into their vehicle. This happening last Sunday night in Gordon County, Georgia. Deputies say they were chasing Ramiro Espinoza when the man allegedly stopped at a gas station and tried to carjack these 3 men. The 3 pounced and attacked Espinoza, holding him down until deputies could catch back up. The Gordon County Sheriff awarding each of the men with a citizen service medal for their work.
Kevin Valencia right here, he got him in a chokehold, and that's like, once that happened, it was basically done for because he couldn't do anything.
That's what it's all about. It's about community and partnering with the local law enforcement to keep this community safe.
Again, the Gordon County Sheriff awarding each of these men with a service medal for their work. Some brave and quick-thinking men there.
Absolutely, and
yeah.
like the sheriff said there, we need more of that in the community. Well, a new study shows the physical health of South Carolina children fell behind during the COVID-19 pandemic.
That's according to results from the SC Fitnessgram, an actual and annual fitness test that most students in South Carolina take. Our State House reporter Mary Green has the details.
Doctors and researchers point to a number of likely causes, like kids missing out on PE classes when schools went virtual during the pandemic, activities like sports being put on pause, and people in general leading a more sedentary lifestyle as they stayed at home more.
The fact that this was reflected in reductions in fitness, I think really points to how much their physical activity was probably reduced, because it probably takes a substantial change in physical activity to influence a kid's fitness.
According to the SC Fitnessgram project results, 2 out of 5 students across South Carolina are now considered overweight or obese. Data shows heart and lung health declined by 9%, and more than half of the state's students don't meet the national standards for cardiorespiratory fitness. Children living in poverty also scored worse on every measure. Dr. Deborah Greenhouse, a Columbia pediatrician, says these results match what she's seen in her office every day since the pandemic.
More kids dealing with problems with weight gain, more kids dealing with problems of not having access to healthy foods, and kids in general just not being as active as they were before, not getting as much exercise.
And to turn this trend around, Dr. Greenhouse says the state and schools are going to have to improve kids' access to physical activity and to healthy foods. She points to a bill that's been filed here at the State House that would provide free school meals to every student in South Carolina as a great place to start toward that latter goal. Reporting from the State House, I'm Mary Green.
The results are in from the 2021-2020 school year, so Dr. Pate notes it is possible the results have already started to turn around, but they won't know until they get the data next fall from the last school year.
Well, it's not just you. America is going through an epidemic of loneliness, and studies say it's bad for your health. Just ahead, we'll learn more about what's going on. Riley?
And fall officially starts this weekend, and it looks like this year it is going to feel like it. We'll take a look at some comfortable temperatures heading our way just after the break.
Time and Temp, brought to you.
Welcome back to the live look from our Thurman Dam Cam, and I got this zoomed in a little bit. You can see the sail club there, but I wanted to focus on the flag. You can see it is whipping this afternoon. A little bit choppy out there at Clarksville Lake. We are looking at sustained winds close to 15 miles an hour. We have seen some gusts get over 20 in a few spots, but very comfortable temperatures. Right now we're at 80 degrees here around Augusta. The reason why it is breezy is that we have Tropical Storm Ophelia, which actually latest 5 o'clock update just came in from the Hurricane Center, and they're finding sustained winds still up to 70 70 miles per hour near the center of this storm. So not too far away from becoming a hurricane, and it still has a little bit of time to possibly do that. You can still see it's hanging offshore, but expected to impact the Outer Banks for the rest of tonight. For us here locally, we're staying on the dry side of this storm, not expecting any rainfall this evening for those high school football games. So looking beautiful out there around kickoff. We'll be in the mid-70s. By halftime, we're falling into the 60s, so maybe a little bit cool for some of us. You may want to have some sleeves on if you are heading out this evening into early tonight. Tomorrow morning, we are expecting low temps to get down into the 50s across most of the region, so we'll be a little bit cooler start to the weekend. And maybe you're doing some traveling. We got the Dogs in town, also the Tigers, big game against FSU. That's a noon kickoff, and even the Gamecocks in Columbia have a home game against Mississippi State tomorrow night. So by around noontime tomorrow, most spots across the two states should be in the mid to upper 70s. You can see Clemson for their kickoff temp most likely in the mid-70s with just a few passing clouds. Once we get into later tomorrow afternoon, those high temps will hit the 80s from Augusta to Athens, possibly staying in the 70s though from Columbia all the way into the upstate. For that little bit later kickoff Saturday, those temps will be falling into the 60s during game time, but it does look to stay mostly dry. And then by Sunday morning, we're going to drop even closer to the mid and upper 50s across most spots. So just very comfortable conditions sticking around through the weekend. We're going to see these morning temps stay in the 50s at least through Monday. Once we get into later next week, that humidity will increase some, and those overnight temps likely increase into the 60s. But for Ironman Augusta happening early Sunday morning, as those athletes do head out on the Savannah River for that early morning swim, could be a little bit cool out there. We actually did get a report from the Savannah River keeper that they took the water temp this morning. It was about 72 degrees, so they are allowed to wear wetsuits as long as that river temp is less than 76, and it looks like they'll definitely be in that threshold. So a little bit cool out there, but as they hop on the bike and go for that run, temps will be very comfortable in the 60s and 70s. If you are heading up to the lake this weekend, tomorrow is actually National Public Lands Day, so they're going to have a big trash pickup event. They're really wanting a lot of volunteers to show up for that. So if you want to participate, plenty of information about that on the Corps of Engineers website. High temperatures up at the lake this weekend should be closer to 80, just a degree or two cooler than us here in Augusta. But if you are heading out on the actual lake temps actually just dropped below 80 degrees for the first time in the past couple of months. So lake temps are cooling off, and the lake level is still pretty low, folks. So be careful of any shallow water hazards that may be present up there through the weekend. Now, as we get into Sunday, we do get a little bit more sunshine, just a few clouds hanging around on Saturday, but no rain in our forecast until we get to most likely late Tuesday into Wednesday and Thursday of next week.
Thanks, Riley. America is facing a nationwide loneliness epidemic, and the effects of this go far beyond just being bored. It's affecting people's health.
In Atlanta, a social media event is hoping to create connections among young adults and start a conversation. Savannah Louie shows us.
Smiling, joyful friends enjoying life in Metro Atlanta. But what brought these people together were shared feelings of isolation.
It's hard to make friends as an adult. I think we've all experienced it. I know I've experienced it.
Anna Olson founded ATL Friends, a community group connecting adults at events like
Day of next week.
Thanks, Riley. America is facing a nationwide loneliness epidemic, and the effects of this go far beyond just being bored. It's affecting people's health.
In Atlanta, a social media event is hoping to create connections among young adults and start a conversation. Savannah Louie shows us.
Smiling, joyful friends enjoying life in Metro Atlanta. But what brought these people together were shared feelings of isolation.
It's hard to make friends as an adult. I think we've all experienced it. I know I've experienced it.
Anna Olson founded ATL Friends, a community group connecting adults at events like this, creating the group after a cross-country move and breakup 2 years ago.
What our goal is really to just create an environment where people feel safe to admit that they're lonely and not feel like there's shame around that.
People, especially young people, forgot how to socialize.
Licensed professional counselor Laura Morse says feelings of loneliness amplified during the COVID-19 pandemic still hang heavy. A new report from the U.S. Surgeon General finds about half of U.S. adults report measurable levels of loneliness, taking a mental and physical toll, including increased risk for heart disease, stroke, and dementia in older adults.
To have healthy societies, we need to have a sense of community, and people need to be able to come together, not only when we're in a crisis situation, right, but just in everyday life.
ATL Friends
gatherings over shared interests like sporting events, picnics at Piedmont Park, and fitness classes can help build stronger connections.
You might say, well, at least I have this in common with this person. So if I give myself an opportunity to talk and discuss this activity, might find that we have more things in common.
I get intimidated walking up to meet more people. It's not easy for anybody, but I think the more you do it and the more you put yourselves in those situations, the more you benefit from it.
Even though you may be lonely, you're not alone. Sometimes the best thing to do is just get out there and participate in your community. Now, we do have a community calendar on our website where you can find events happening in our area that you can take part in and perhaps make some new friends.
Well, coming up, they are so much more than dancers. How one NFL cheer squad works both on and off the field. That's next, coming up after a short break.
First Alert Radar, powered by Jim Hudson Lexus Acura Cadillac.
Accidents happen.
Braves.
Behind every great team in the NFL, there is a dedicated group of performers ready to make the sport into a spectacle.
And for the Carolina Panthers, that group is called the Top Cats. But for all the glitz and glamour, these dancers do so much more off the field. Kristen Miranda shows us more.
They practice in the evenings. They practice in the mornings. This year's squad of 25 Top Cats has been working hard to get ready for the 2023-24 season. But this job, as hard as they work, is technically a side hustle.
Do we want to stick with this one? My name is Alexis Sahoski, and I work here at LTV Forensic Engineering. We just keep that. And I am our company's graphic designer.
My name is Dominique Burrill, and I'm an assistant public defender with Mecklenburg County.
Two impressive women with big jobs that take up a lot of time. Alexa designs branding graphics for a company of forensic engineers working on accident reconstruction.
I was just an artsy little kid.
Dominique could be in court on as many as a dozen cases every day.
We specifically choose to be public defenders because we want to help people who are indigent, and we want to be able to make sure that they get equal representation as if they had the funds to hire their own attorney or to retain their own attorney. We want to level that playing field because we truly believe that the courtroom is the one place that money shouldn't matter.
These two Top Cat veterans are certainly not alone when it comes to creating a balancing act.
We have teachers, we have fitness instructors, we have people in HR.
Some of us are wives, some of us are mothers. Like, we all have so many hats that we wear, and it's not the full-time job. It's not the full picture.
You can't tell a client that's been waiting, for several months, like, oh, sorry, you don't get your trial today because I'm going to practice. If we have a game day on a Sunday, I could be in trial at 9:20 a.m. on a Monday morning.
Because they each say there's something about being on those sidelines on game day that's hard to describe.
It's surreal. You kind of don't get used to it. We do player tunnel at the beginning of every game. I could cry every time that we do it.
Making it totally worth every ounce of physical, emotional, and mental energy that they spend.
It's a lot to juggle, but at the end of the day, I'm very passionate about Top Cats. That's something that I do for me.
Yes, you worked your booty off to get yourself here, but there are only 25 people on the team. So you worked here, you worked to get here, but I'm also so lucky to be granted a spot on the team, and that really hits full force when you're in front of everybody. I could be someone in the stands, but I'm not. I get to be down here and I get to live it, and that's why it's the coolest thing I've ever done.
And many of the dancers in this group credit their mothers with getting them to audition and join that group as well.
I just love that it's a complete different side than you expect.
Exactly. And I know there was one done on the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders as well. It's really hard to get on these teams.
Right.
So they don't get paid a lot either. And again, it's a side hustle for them essentially.
But I love that they're kicking butt during the day and then kicking butt on the sidelines on
That's
Sunday.
awesome.
Yeah. When you think of Atlanta, you think of traffic, right? The two, of course, go hand in hand. But city leaders there hope to change this at least a little bit with the help of some new technology. It's from an Israeli startup called Intelligent Traffic Control. It uses computer vision analysis to look at road objects, car speed, traffic flow, and other factors to trigger traffic lights.
Built around preset timing, preset programming. As you see cars just sitting here, they sit and then the light turns. So this starts to take into what's actually happening in the environment.
Now, right now, this tech is only at one intersection that sees about 6,000 cars a day. The goal is to expand this to other intersections in the following weeks that see upwards of 60,000 cars per day. And maybe if it works, it'll move its way on down
We can
here
use
to
it.
us.
We
I know
can
some
use it.
intersections where,
Right outside our station.
Oh, yeah, that's
River
if you're listening,
River
traffic
Watch.
engineers.
Yeah, that would definitely be a huge benefit to traffic patterns all across the country if we can figure that out. Well, rain chances remain very low through the weekend. Next week, though, we do bring back the chance for a few showers. Now look at that 70 forecast just after the break.
Cracks in your brick, cracks.
Welcome back, folks. This is a live look towards the Sharon Jones Amphitheater, and we're starting to see it transform a little bit. This is actually where they're going to start the swimming portion of Ironman Augusta Sunday morning. So they actually are setting up some barricades out there, and they actually have a dock they just built that these swimmers are going to be launching from. You can kind of see that through the trees right here. So this is actually going to be a new course that they're setting up this year for Ironman. So going to be pretty cool to have that start near SRP Park. Temperatures this afternoon near 80 degrees. It's going to stay beautiful this evening if you're heading out to those high school football games, date night, anything like that, looking good to go for you. Temperatures this weekend in the morning time going to be a little bit cooler for us, waking up in the 50s Saturday, Sunday, Monday morning, and looking to hang on to dry weather.
All right, thanks, Riley. Stick with us. We have more news, weather, and sports coming up after a short break as News 12 Live at 5 continues.
They say patience is a virtue.